In the episode 21, from Dan Kent, in, in his page From Surprising God, in interview with Alan Rhoda, that makes a book, writes a book in the Cambridge Press University, that he is writing about the open theism. In fact, his book is called Open Theism. Alan Rhoda says us that Rhoda says about him that he is molinist, but the way that he is molinist is a way little different. Little different because he was working with Greg Boyd about the open theism. Because, for example, Boyd writes in his book Satan on the Problem of Evil about the open theist, such as an open view as neo-molinism. For Boyd, the open theism and the molinism are the same but little different, because the molinism offers some kind of answers about the problem of freedom and the sovereignty of God. But although it offers that, maybe, no, not maybe, Rhoda sees, reads that the Molinism has troubles about to talk about the problem of evil. But Rhoda, in collaboration with Boyd, he writes the book of open theism in Cambridge Elements in the Cambridge University. Well, Rhoda explores the open theism with a new perspective of the Molinism, the neo-Molinism, and then he explores that talking about models of Molinism, and then he writes how some Molinism writes such as open theist, and then he writes about that. He explores the history of Christianity, and he sees how Athanasius was some kind of open theist about his texts. Well, but then I am trying to talk about his perspective about some kind of cosmoview where we may see, we may read the perspective of quantum mechanics from Liz Mollin and Cleia Verde, where he explores the quantum mechanics of the present. When we read to Boyd or when we read to Rhoda, we see how they talk about three times: the past, the present, and the future. But Liz Mollin, since the quantum perspective, he offers that in reality exists two times, the undefined and the defined time. I am not inventing that. Smolin writes about that, where he defines the definite and the indefinite time, such as where he is writing about the past, the future, and the present. He says that the past, the present, and the future in reality are two: the definite and the indefinite time. Then he writes about the quantum mechanics of definite and the indefinite time. Well, when we explore that, we can see that he talks in the philosophical perspective when it there is in the theology in a kind of quantum theology. I am trying to say that we have from Mark Harris a quantum theology beyond of Copenhagen. Because in the quantum theology, the Mark Harris is saying us that we need to see in the interpretation of Copenhagen and beyond that we have a kind of possibilities about the future that's coherent with Smalley. And then, with that coherence, we may object that it is a kind of interpretation of quantum mechanics. But what happened with the thermodynamics? Well, we need to know that in the thermodynamics, we may talk about the entropy. The entropy, here writing by the book of Sole in Spanish, the entropy taken from Shannon, the entropy is a expected value of information, and that depends of the probability. The probability is a perspective not determinist, and for that we need to see the nature in stochastic processes. Seeing the nature with the stochastic processes, we may see that the nature is not determinist. And then, I think that we may to talk about a kind of cosmoview of the nature and its interaction with God with not determinism, whether with a kind of probability of interaction, the complexity, such as I want to say about that.